Oh yeah, we got the shitty audio today. We got the shitty audio, we got the shitty camera. All the gear is packed up. Hitting the road end of this week. Well, at least for a weekend residency and show. And then touring next month. But for this thing coming up this week. I need my interface and I don't feel like digging through the bag to get it and hooking it back up to give you good audio. Plus I got the fucking air conditioner running because it's insanely hot. Whatever happened to spring? Whatever happened to spring? We go straight from winter and then a couple days of spring and then it's 95 degrees. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome back. Group Critique Fight Club, baby. Sun's in my fucking eyes, directly to my west. By the time we're done here, it will have set past the horizon and out of my fucking face. Hope everyone is doing swell. For anybody in the Durham, North Carolina, Raleigh, or NC, greater NC area, I will be in residence Friday and Saturday this week at Boom Club, fantastic nonprofit music tech workshop space and venue in the heart of Durham, having me out Friday to do a set in support of Kolobo, who will be headlining. If y'all know Kolobo, really awesome LA artist. And then on Saturday we're doing another round of field recording field trip out in Durham, place that I've never gone field recording before. We're going to meet in the morning, go out, hopefully weather pending, get some sounds, field records, sample pack, one shots, hit some things with some sticks, the classic Parrotsky way of doing things, and then we come back to the space and we use their full, library of resources and gear and, souped up computers built up there to compose something. They have tools waiting for us back in the lab. So we're gonna go make something with what we find, and it'll be fun. And then that evening, Jay Lynn is spinning at the space. So looking forward to getting on the guest list for that by virtue of being in residence there the same weekend. So yeah, Boom Club, Friday and Saturday this week, Durham, North Carolina. Reminder, a week from today, our monthly project for April and May is due. We got Wendy Eisenberg coming through, listening to your harmonies and melodies. You already should know what the assignment is at this point. Not going to repeat it. Go to the Discord monthly project thread, get all the info, get something in by exactly a week from today. Lastly, we got to shout outs the sponsors, the homies holding us down at Tape Trade, who are experiencing a nice new upgrade to some features. The ability to share and collaborate on playlists, similar to how you might use Google Drive or Dropbox and allow other folks to edit and collaborate on documents. Having a shared with you option now available on the new updates for iOS as they slowly trickle it out, it seems. But it's happening. So really fun way to collaborate on sharing music, sharing projects through, an in-app collaborative playlisting apparatus. But also just thinking about collaborative, I'm thinking pragmatically as a studio practitioner who wants to send stems or demos to a collaborator who's not working on site with you. Just the ability to, edit the same thing, I think is a great function to have. So you should absolutely check them out. Tapetrade.io. Shout outs to them. It's an app for artists to store, share, and play back the works that you got in progress with private, you can replace your private SoundCloud playlists, you can replace Google Drive, you can replace Dropbox with lossless and gapless audio, and now collaborative playlisting and sharing. So shout outs to Tape Trade once again. Okay. Lovely, lovely, lovely evening of music ahead. Let me open up what we have here. We have some tracks from last week that we didn't get to, and we have some new ones for today as well. Beep, 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 beep. Okay. Hell yeah. We have something that was submitted last week, and I'm trying to see where it is. Yes, it was from Cozy, who wrote to us last week. We didn't have time to get to, so we're starting off with them. This was originally an old song I made a while back. Really didn't like the demo when I first started writing it. Thought the sound was muddy and the vocals sounded bad. LMAO. Don't laugh your ass off for that. I went a different direction this time, but it already sounds way better even though I just started it. I really need to re-record the vocals as they're pretty sloppily thrown on, and added the ending rhythm section. And add the ending rhythm section, but I'd love feedback on what else I could add to the instrumentals. I've been really working hard learning sound design, and I think it's been paying off well. Okay, good stuff. Let's see where we're at with this track. Knife Play, reconstructed demo from Cozy. Let's go. Very nice stuff from Cozy. We're getting a real good picture for your taste here, eclectic tastes. Not just with this piece, but with stuff that you've been submitting the last few months. It's this juxtaposition of and as you've told us on the Sundays, I believe it's your classically trained vocalist and teaching yourself the harp, but the production side of things is more of a self-taught sort of direction, maybe composing as well. I'm not sure, but we could hear this juxtaposition in sound interests and worlds that you're trying to build here. Beautiful consonant tight vocals, like just very well performed and expressive, and obviously, like you said, like you're gonna do more to it, and I think you should really layer it out dynamically. You gotta think about, I want to focus on the sound design, because I know what you're going for in utilizing the extremely distorted and heavy drums, but I think we got to find a way to not ease into that, but that's the only harsh sound for the entirety. Everything else is relatively clean and hi-fi, and I think that aesthetically we should either use the noise timbre of the drums but take out the harshness, properly mix it so that it's more dynamically mixed with the other elements, so that it's not just or we add more elements to this that lay into the harsh noise, rhythmic noise sort of faction of this, in which we're not focusing necessarily on, we're not clearly focusing on cleanliness when it comes to the tone and timbre of those drums, but if we did mix it, we could bring them down to a more dynamic, green, well blended sort of region through some proper gain staging, but if you don't care about that, if you want to have some really jarring, extreme, dynamic sort of jumps, you need more sounds in this dynamic range. Even the other drums, the clicking sounds, are so much more blended and seemingly with all of the other production elements. It's only these harsh, distorted drums that are really jumping out like that. So we gotta pick the identity for this piece when it comes to what type of mix zone do we even want to approach this with. There's not a right or wrong answer here. This is a compositional choice. Mixing is so, I don't know who it was, but in a comment section yesterday someone said, in a post that I then deleted because it was too vague a headline, we're not going to get into it now, but someone was saying about how the gain staging was separate for them from the creative process, basically saying channel strip effects types of mixes and stuff like that is separate to them from the creative process of mixing and production. And I'm just are you fucking crazy, dude? Whatever happened to tone? Whatever happened to dynamics? That shit blew me away, man. Huge red flag. Of course gain staging should be a part of the creative process here, and that's what I'm talking about with this, is that there's an identity here to your piece that still needs to come through. And if it's meant to be a harsh noise piece, truly, we got to add more sound design, more extremeness, throw out the dynamic rulebook, let it bury your voice the way that it is right now, you know what I mean? Or produce the hell out of your voice and make that harsh, make that shiny as fuck, make that cut through, but one way or the other, you got to think about this from what is the genre, because right now it's not one or the other, because it's a work in progress, So think about this from just like, if it needs more, I would say, because I like the idea of having it this stripped, but just more like really nicely mixed, and then stacking some proper vocal harmonies and mixing that as well. But that wouldn't make it like a noise piece. That would make it a experimental pop track, which it most certainly is. But like, it would use some noisy timbres, but it would be much more restrained dynamically to blend in with everything else. It would be high fidelity, soft clipping. You know what I mean? But in the case of the latter, making it a harsh noise piece, like, you could just destroy this and it would fit if you doubled down. But you gotta decide what's the identity of this piece. Looking forward to learning when we hear another version from this. Good stuff. Thank you, Cozy. All right, Agooz. And I already put the new version of it. Is it the same song or is it new mix? This is the first full song made on a DAW. I've done some loops before, but would love feedback with music in general. Besides that, if you see anything weird from the mixing, please let me know. First time mixing, thanks a bunch. So I'm assuming the second file you made is a second mix of the same track. Yeah? Cool. All right. We are going to listen to that. Canguil. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Sorry. Let's go.
Te vas a olvidar. Extrañar tanto las cosas es maltratarlas. Te vas a olvidar. Despreciar los sentimientos, deformarlos con pretextos. Pasando el tiempo vacío de recuerdos y está frío. No tener nada que hacer hasta la hora de comer. Los días que no pasaron, lo que nunca sucedió, o te vas a
Very nice. Very nice. When you wrote when you wrote in the Discord that this is the first full song you made on a DAW, like I was thinking that this was like your first musical endeavor. Clearly not. I'm assuming you've played in bands. I'm assuming you've done things with instruments in a live context in vivo in the past, and that this is your first time going solo in the DAW and producing. I really enjoy you're making it's pop punk, right? Like we're following a formula here, but you're subverting it, even just with the tongue-in-cheek samples. But more than that, it's like this like really exaggerated, both rhythm section, drums, as well as like the general like energy of this. My Spanish is terrible. It's not. It's gotten much worse since I moved out from Puerto Rico. But I mean, like, this is the type of thing that, like, and where they're talking about this a bit in the chat, is just like your vocals need to like be like cutting through here right now. Everything is really dry right now, and that's okay. It just doesn't sound mixed when it comes to. I mean, electric guitar and vocals specifically, like the main audio sort of non-electronic sounds you got going on here. But the voice, we got to produce the shit out of that voice. It needs to be huge. That final chorus, like yes, it needs reverb, but it also needs like dynamically to like raise. I want like 3-part harmony in stereo. Like I want a full sound when it comes to your voice specifically. And then blast the guitars, like the guitars are the tone, they have the tone they have because I'm assuming you're recording it from an amp. And that's why, it sounds healthy, but like it's still like flat in the mix. Like it's gotta like be like brought way the hell up, you know what I mean? Like this should be treated not like hyperpop level of like surgical production, but like take this as a challenge for yourself. You clearly have an interest in these bizarre sounds, and utilizing like alternative plunderphonic percussion, you know what I mean? So like this is the type of thing that like would be the like a great opportunity to explore how you can develop your voice, and I don't mean just your literal voice, but like your production voice further, by developing the mix of this specifically. Like there's like you clearly have an interest in like extreme or exaggerated sort of compositional elements, let's say, because at the core of it is still a pop punk song, but like what you're doing to it is subversive, and you can continue to subvert it with your mix. This is the type of thing that's just like, again, like this is the creative process I'm talking about in studio. It's not just writing it and recording it, but it's what you do with that recording specifically. Yeah, and there's more you could, like I said, like vocals should be stacked. We need at least 3 vocal tracks from you in harmony or doubles, but like wide, not just a narrow, untouched voice. You know what I mean? If you listen to, I'd be curious, like your influences here personally, from even the punk perspective, because if we're talking about like classic true to form 2000s pop punk, like that shit was, they produced the hell out of that stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Vocal layers following your main. Yes. So double your main. Do your main twice. Let it be like slightly imperfect because you're doing more than one take of the same melody. You know what I mean? But then add a third above, add a fifth or an octave above that, create harmony in your voice and then spread it out in stereo. You know what I mean? Something's coming from la izquierda, something from la derecha. You know what I mean? Like give us some left and right, center, something in between, you know, create a chorus, you know, because like all your lyrics need to, like, especially like on the final, you know, like towards the climactic moments of the track, you know, towards the end, we need growth dynamically, and we need to, like, anthem vocals, we call it, you know, like where like everybody can scream, sing along, you know what I mean? This is the type of music that is sort of meant for, you know. So we need the voice to really be produced. We need the voice to really stand out here. And then, like, think about more extreme, bizarre, Foley sound. Find out more ways to be subversive here, you know. I like that what you're doing. I think that's really, it's very bold choice. It's reminded me a lot of the band The Books, even though they don't make pop punk, but they're like a hybrid between, like, entirely sample based and bizarre, sometimes very funny, tongue in cheek samples that they use in their tracks, and then combining that with just acoustic guitar and cello to make this very interesting sort of Baroque pop from the 2000s. You're doing that, but with pop punk, you know, and a more like hyper pop or even vaporwave sort of like approach to like Plunderphonics, like a more internet oriented, younger approach to this Plunderphonics technique of, you know, found sounds and just like bizarre media audio being dropped in there. Yeah. You're saying, wasn't that much into pop punk, but I was really into Midwest emo and hyperpop. All right, well, I mean, you're there here. I think this is way more American pop than it is the Midwest emo. It sounds like a much more bigger, epic, exaggerated production here. You know what I mean? Think about Midwest emo is that it's like pretty stripped and very imperfect here, and I think a lot of what you're doing here is really like locked into the DAW in a perfected, like, you know, hyperpop informed way. There is some, you know, very precise sort of production here. You know what I mean? Yeah, and girl talk too. I mean, mashup culture in general, but I mean, the books specifically as just like, these are songs that also have a like prominent 50% of this is Plunderphonic sample talks, you know, sample drops, you know. So like you could get even more involved in that here on top of just your song production. You know what I mean? It's just like the experiment further. Like, this is a new project for you. Like, let's see how far you want to take the, you know, the subversive, the so just unexpected Plunderphonic route. And if you haven't Agus, if you haven't heard that term Plunderphonics, please check out John Oswald. I name drop him all the time, but like just the idea that like you can utilize any recorded audio media that's been published. You could pirate it and turn it into any instrument you want. You know, it doesn't need to be, in his case, like he believes that all music should consist of other samples and no original recordings, but you don't have to take it that far. I like this hybridization that you're doing here. I think you could develop it even further as far as like what the voice of this project is, because it's just already so humorous. It's already so unexpected and bizarre at times in a good way, you know. Develop this and mix the hell out of those vocals. Definitely. All right. Looks like we got two more on deck. I don't know if anyone else submitted anything. That's all right. Okay, a new one from Jesse, or an update from Jesse. Updated a draft for my monthly project submission. Added some clocked echo for the melodic voice, as well as a bass line. Despite earlier suggestions, any non-staccato bass I tried didn't work, so I went with something that sounded like a thumpy finger plucking. That sounds staccato. Non-staccato I tried didn't work. Got you. Never mind, I misread that. Well, thumpy finger pluck is a good combo. Relatively soft attack. I was hearing a lot of sporadic clipping in my mixing session, although I couldn't find any meters going into the red. Among any other comments, let me know if you could hear it, assuming it being the clipping. hoping it's negligible enough that I don't have to track down where the clipping is coming from. All right, well, let's see. Whoops, I skipped Cuckoo. We'll do Cuckoo after Jesse. I'm sorry, my bad. Whoops! Walk Away. Alternative draft number 2. All right. Very nice, Jesse. Very nice. Coming together quite nicely. The bass is a nice addition. I feel like there's a bit of dissonance happening in the bass. Did anyone else pick up on that? Like a couple moments where it I don't know if it was just like the sort of like tuning portamento of the synth itself, or being in the low end, or if my ears are just deceiving me, but like I don't know, like it's also like the type of bass sound that like I would expect it to do a bit more walking, you know, like less dopa 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 dopa, but more like do 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 do. You know, like it could kind of play a role as a four to the floor to some extent, but like in motion of an arpeggiation, you know, with the occasional like da 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 da. You know what I mean? Like I think like this could play a more traditional bass role in the sense that it's like your rhythm section here, you know. It could play something a bit more in line with a continuous quarter note sort of I guess shape to it, and then find ways to add fills within that. I think it could just be, it could play a more prominent role, you know, because once it comes in, it's like halfway. And the way that it sounds right now, this da 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 ba da ba da ba da ba da da, you know, that sounds like the beginning of the bass line, and that it's going to then develop more rhythmically as it continues. You know, it felt like the intro, like I'm like shy and I'm opening up my part, you know, with a few individual tones and some sustain, and then I go do 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 do, you know, and it doesn't have to be swung or anything like that. I don't know why my brain is going straight there. It could be dibba dibba doo dibba doo 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 doo, you know, get some triplet in there, but like let it be more of a prominent role as a you know, a rhythmic component, and not just holding down the low end here, you know, because it's like, it's not like we're going to develop this into some big drum drop, you know what I mean? Like this is your rhythm section here, and it's a nice patch, it's a nice tone to that sort of like, you know, like finger plucky sort of sound here, but with that, like it has a rhythmic element to it. It's not like a hard attack, but it does have a nice little pluck, you know. So like let's turn it into something rhythmically here, you know, and develop that will really justify the length of this here, at what is this at, yeah, it's like it's at 5 minutes, you know what I mean. And if you were at all worried about like is it feeling over repetitive or anything like that, you know, like play with the bass, use the entire second half where the bass is in there to develop that rhythmically, and then by the end, like let it be something much busier, much more complex than how it started. You know what I mean? That will carry it for 5 minutes, no problem. You know what I mean? Give us something there. You know, I was waiting for like a every other bar half note, like a tambourine, just like just a shimmer, one of those like ride cymbals that have those little rivets built into them, so they're just like more of a metallic shimmering texture ever so often, every 2 bars, every 4 bars or something like that, you know, something accented there as well, just as a final that barely counts as a rhythm section, but you know what I'm saying. An element of percussion, one element of percussion that is mostly textural. That was the one other thing I was thinking towards the very end. But yeah, Jividan, yeah, the last quarter of the piece, something like that, you know. just how it's okay to be stacking things up. I think that's fine as an arrangement for a piece like this. You know, it is repetitive music. You know, let's not try to make it something it's not. You know, good stuff. I'm looking forward to the final draft next week. I wonder what Wendy will have to say. Getting everything accounted for, but it's a good challenge, dude. You know, this is the most tonal development we've heard from you, Jesse, this past month. You know, working on this project. It's good. It works. It works. Keep it going. Okay. Going back to Cuckoo. Looking on feedback on how to polish this thing, arrangement, pacing, etc. We know ja. I am not even gonna. I don't know how to pronounce it in Polish. I'm sorry, Cuckoo. Write it out for us phonetically in the chat so we know. All right, here we go, Cuckoo. Yeah. Yeah. Who said it? Jesse said it. Yeah. I guess tonight's theme is collage sound selection. Yes, absolutely. It's Plunderphonics all the way today. This is great stuff. I mean, this is hard. This is hard club music. This is meant for a sound system, obviously. Lovely, lovely levels of saturation and distortion going on in the low end here. I think the sample drops need to play a more rhythmic role. Right now they're doing, they're just like occasional little things in there. I'm waiting for them to be gated and turned into, turn on the arpeggiator on the MIDI controller and gate them tight, pitch shift them, go fucking Kraftwerk with this. Create randomized patterns of gates here, like find ways to turn that into like a lead rhythmic instrument. You know what I mean? Right now it's I guess the vocals, if that's what that is, right? Whatever those are, those sample drops there, make them more of a rhythmic role, because they're mostly just doing like like these nice little offbeats that should start there, but like develop them further, like make them more of a it's Kylie Minogue. Chop her up, get her chopped up, pitch shifted, gated to a tight envelope, get creative with that. Seriously, I think that's like it needs to play a more lead role. You know what I mean? Yes, what Breathplay is saying, the vocals would love to hear ricocheting around a stereo field. Yeah, put them in motion. Whether they're ricocheting or like just the channel itself is finding a way to auto pan in a semi-randomized or rhythmic way, create a pattern with that. She's over here, she's over there, she's moving from left to right, give us something there. Otherwise, we don't need to develop this further instrumentally. It plays quite a heavy role, it's very effective otherwise. Breathplay says, I think the bass is a little too heavy, doesn't feel like it has the momentum as much as it seems to want. Kind of want really short slammy kick up front and then longer subs. Hey, use some side chain, create some ducking, mess around with compressing the bass a bit so maybe it's not slamming all the way. See how that goes, Personally, I mean, I enjoy the clipping, but we can certainly hone it in and keep the soft clipped audio intact through the creative process of gain staging. Gain stage. Tone. It's what's for dinner. We're shaping tones. Where is tone stored? You tell me. I'm not going to say it on the air. You know where. All right. We got one more. We got one more today. And it's Breathplay. Coming in last bit. And we'll call it after that. The energetic peak of Gemini season, still in normalization and mastering phase. On one deck is BFRB by Steny from my first love techno label Ilian Tape. On the other is Jackie Velasquez, a Y2K CCM star, modeled on first wave Latin crossovers like Jennifer Lopez, who has appeared in previous Breathplay releases. There was an extremely specific moment in American culture where Sony was releasing white labels of bootleg-feeling rave remixes of religious pop. Interesting. As usual for me, it's pretty buried, but you can catch some very raw and chunky 909s and obnoxious synth horn stabs. At the end of it transitions into my own Innocent as Doves. I'll be interested to hear how people interpret the emotional character of this. All right. Even Walls Have Ears. Part 1 from the Gemini season mix, Breathplay. Let's go. You had me captivated. You got me intrigued. This is I need to be a little more inebriated, and this needs to be like playing incredibly loudly in front of me, and I need, like, you know, enough distance to move around. Very effective stuff, you know. True to form dub set by hand, like you said. You've become a surgeon at the Pioneer controller, so bravo on that, seriously. I mean, like, I don't know, like, emotional arc, as you said here, I don't know if that's the right way of describing, like, it's full immersion, you know what I mean? It's a proper mix in the way that it is a, not a mix, but a recomposition, utilizing these tools, you know? We've said it before, like, you're making a collage here, like, in using DJ software and, like, the act of making, like, dub techno as a sort of vehicle for that experimentation. But, like, it's a great sound that you're developing here. It is versatile. You're able to blend in with ambient performers. You can blend in a more experimental, even noise sort of context, and you can obviously spin a more dance setting here. You know what I mean? So, like, seriously, like, this project has legs, and I'm looking forward to hearing the full mix of this. You gotta be planning. You gotta do a weekend long thing. You know, 3 shows in a row. Make it happen for yourself this summer, Breathplay. Seriously, completely DIY. You have enough people now. Seriously. This is what it's all about right here. Because, I mean, like, this is the type of thing that, like, is fun. This should be sweaty. This should be gross. You know what I mean? This is great for summer. You know? Doesn't matter if it's an amazing sound system or not, you know? Like, this is the type of thing, like I said, it's versatile. But it's incredibly immersive, and I think that's, like, testament to the project that you've developed here and the practice you've put in, you know? All live performances going on here, in case anyone hadn't figured that out, you know? Performed on the CDJs in small loops at a time, and interesting modes of arrangement here. Yeah, Gemini season out now? Out soon? What's the deal with that? Put a link in the chat for the record, in case anyone knows, or in case anyone hasn't. Wednesday, okay. All right. Coming out Wednesday. That's just a taste for it. Remember to send that in the Discord. You obviously will. This is worthwhile. Good. Put in the link in there as well. I'll save that for myself. All right. Good stuff from everybody. Wonderful. It's a plunderphonic evening. Plunderphonics and sound collage come in many different forms. You know, we've covered a lot of bases this evening. Wonderful stuff. As a reminder, we won't be meeting this coming Sunday, as I'll be traveling back from the residency on Sunday, but Monday next week is your monthly project with Wendy Eisenberg. So get those in, submitted to the Discord. Shout outs once again to Tape Trade for the support. Tapetrade.io. Go get on there. Gonna put two weeks free link in the description for the show notes when I post this. And remember, like, comment, and subscribe. At least give it 5 stars on whatever fucking podcast app you're listening to. Bring those numbers up. But also subscribe to the Patreon. Patreon.com/Parrotsky. You know the deal. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful evening, wonderful week, and I will see you next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.